Good day, YouTube. How's everybody doing out there? We're enjoying a nice sunny day. After a couple days over 100, it feels like it's cooled off for a couple days, so that's good. The heat was definitely getting to be oppressive, even for out here. The high desert is a little, while it's still desert, it's still considered a little bit cooler than your places like Phoenix and Vegas, etc. But just doing a quick video to check in, say hello, and I guess talk about a couple things that are on the radar, if obviously everybody's paying attention, and maybe raise a question or two as we go through. The mystery of why we're trying to go to war with Russia still remains out there. I put the video out a couple years ago talking about the proxy war with Russia in the Ukraine and what was behind it, and it can't be decided why would you have that same issue going on in Syria now, and almost even more closer proximity now, where you have Russians and Americans in the same airspace, etc. One invited, one uninvited, but yet people somehow come to the conclusion that we as the United States are justified somehow in this. It baffles the mind how people can rationalize the nature of that conflict and continue to excuse away the actions that we're taking. It just doesn't make any sense that you could come to that conclusion. We're in a country that is fully established government. We're not in an active war with them, supposedly. We're not in a declared war, I should say. And we're in there militarily doing whatever we want, airspace, ground space, everything, incursion across our borders. So we're doing the actions of a declared war against that country, but we're not declaring it. We're not going after them per se, except when they bomb our radical Islamist fighters that we are supporting, which is what happened. A Syrian fighter bomber bombs a known insurgent Islamist stronghold, and the American shoots down the Syrian. Does it make any sense? Does anybody, I should say, everybody that rationalizes this has severe cognitive dissonance. They are not seeing reality. They are not evaluating. They are acting completely on emotion and maybe just on the pure propaganda of the whole idea that the United States is still just in this cause. Syria bombs basically ISIS, and the U.S. shoots down that fighter in Syria, in Syrian airspace. And we just shot down an Iranian drone that was basically doing the same thing the other day. Was it yesterday? You can't explain it. Or I can't explain it. Please, by all means, somebody explain that for me. Because I can't figure it out. Unless the military strategy is to slowly bleed Syria instead of going in there and just whacking them, or is it to lure in Russia, and then ultimately we want to fight with Russia, which is what I called a couple years ago. And that all has to do with resources and central bank control, because the whole Ukraine issue was started by the European Central Bank, and we backed the play of the central bank. Period. Go look at what happened. All started with a buyout from the European Central Bank getting turned down by the Ukrainian president. That's what started that whole shindig. If people won't see the truth out there, we're definitely in some bad shape. So moving on from that dire news, I don't know how you can share that with your friends and family to explain that situation and get people to realize there is no win-win for the United States in that. But if you can, more power to you. And hopefully somebody's at least willing to listen a little bit. We have a United States vessel gets basically ramrodded by a cargo ship, which is one of the few ships that can pound for pound stand up to United States warship, because cargo ships are huge. Definitely put a hurting on the Fitzgerald, and some crew on board were lost. That is a mystery that you can't understand how that would go down in open sea space like that. It was very, very unusual, and there's got to be more behind it we don't know about. I did see a brief blurb that the cargo ship had turned off its running lights and had changed course, and basically insinuating that the cargo ship did it on purpose. Still, it takes a lot to turn around a cargo ship, and a ship like the Fitzgerald is much more maneuverable as a non-flat bottom boat, because the cargo ship is basically on the verge of flat bottom. You know, it's got a certain shape to the hull, but it's not like the Fitzgerald would be, and should definitely be able to outmaneuver it, but yet it still got rammed. That's a mystery of why they were operating in such close space, and the Fitzgerald not able to keep its distance if it did see that suspicious activity. If the cargo ship did turn off its lights, if it did A, B, and C, like, the Fitzgerald should be able to avoid it. Doesn't seem like, I don't think that's how that played out. But definitely a mystery. Thoughts and prayers to those families. That's a tough deal. At least I believe they've recovered all the sailors that were lost, so at least they weren't lost at sea. That would be even more nerve-wracking, I think, in the long run. But we'll see if anything else comes about that, if it was just a freak accident. But it definitely doesn't make sense. And around here, we're just continuing to, as you can see, have plenty of snow and water. Our water situation is definitely good. Talked to a farmer the other day, and they're looking at doing 4 cuttings of hay this year, because they haven't even touched their water allotment for the year, because basically all the water that's been going out for irrigation so far has been, gratis. It's been for free, basically, because there's so much of it. The irrigation districts are just trying to get it out of the system so that there won't be flooding occurring along a lot of places. So they're looking at 4 cuttings of hay. So I don't know how that affects hay prices, the alfalfa prices in particular. There's a lot of alfalfa shipped out of Nevada that goes a lot of other places. I don't know if that's how that affects the feed market. That'd be interesting if somebody, I don't know, I think Seller might have some input into that idea of how does that affect the whole market when you got I don't think we're the biggest exporter of alfalfa, but we export a lot of alfalfa out of Nevada, and if you had a whole extra cutting of product where that would, increase the supply that much, how that would affect prices. So we'd hate to do that to everybody else, but farmers are definitely doing good. Definitely. Along with anybody else that relies on water for the most part. And it looks like it's going to continue through the summer. There's so much snow up there. I think we're going to see snow up until September. And it might go away then. It might not. It might get then cool off enough we'll have snow all year round again on some of these high points. But just some quick thoughts, checking in for the lunchtime, and just sharing some of the things that have been going on. I think one of the electronic currencies that had been recently shooting up and crashed, somebody dumped millions of dollars worth of it and basically crashed the currency, the electronic. It's not Bitcoin, it was one of the other. There's like Ethereum, lithium, chromium. There's all these different electronic currencies going around now that are trying to get basically startups. And one of them had jumped up into the several teens of dollars range, and now it's back down like 98 cents. Just got hammered, which is easy to do if you're the CIA with unlimited pockets. I try to warn people about that with even Bitcoin. When the Bitcoin Mt. Gox got hacked and crashed, that was a signal to me that they were then under the control of the powers that be. But that's just me thinking. It's a decent enough use as a currency if you can do quick exchanges, but I would not use it as a store of value of wealth. I mean, if you want to do exchange currency and go across borders with it to make a purchase of some sort, anonymously, I would do it quickly. But to store electronic currency up as a store of wealth, like you're going to save it for some future reason, seems ludicrous. Now, as a short-term investment, try to take advantage of the market just like any other, and just like any other play in the stock market, it's a risk, and do that if you want. But to go in there with your X number of savings and to say, this is how I'm going to, move forward and with my whole strategy of purchase and investment and sustainment with your currency, I think is very, very foolish to try to think you're going to rely on that solely when they're so volatile and so easily manipulated and anonymous. Because not only is it anonymous on your end, it's anonymous on the other end. And that's it's not, there's no accountability, there's no link to anything of real value. So my 2 cents on that one as well, if you're paying attention. The price of oil has been crushed. We were above 50 a couple months ago, maybe 2 months ago, maybe less, 6 weeks. And now we're down at $42 and change, which is an incredible smackdown for oil in summertime, especially in America, when the whole summer driver season is supposedly around and prices go up. And now, interestingly, the gas prices haven't adjusted down at the same rate, of course. Well, yet to be seen if they do, because I'm sure they'll try to manipulate the figures and be like, there's this amount, and the driving of Americans is keeping the price high, et cetera, et cetera. Why we don't have, for us, it should be down around $2.25. Out in the East Coast, you guys should be under $2 in the way I see it. But they're going to make that excuse probably up until Labor Day, and then if they start running out of things, it'll really could get hit hard even more if the stockpiles remain high and this price adjustment doesn't do anything. That'll be interesting to follow through the summer, the oil and gas price. Something to watch. Because that is a lead on the economy as a whole, and somehow the Federal Reserve thinks they're going to raise rates because they're afraid of inflation. Interesting how that works. Your primary source of energy for the economy, the oil-based, nature of everything that ships, produces, stuff, is getting tanked, but yet you think there's inflation that's going to occur. So the Federal Reserve might be caught in a pickle because they have to raise rates to save face and to kind of insinuate that the economy's okay. But if they don't raise rates, that's going to make people more nervous, right? There's always something to evaluate and watch, for sure, because it's all going to come around eventually. Those are the bigger picture outside pressures in our everyday life, and obviously we all have our own individual localized things we have to watch and pay attention to. So, good luck, everybody. Prayers be with you. Prepare. They're free.